As a developer, you may know that captcha protection systems constantly evolve, providing more and more obfuscated ways to slow down automation bots' development. You need to know more and more advanced programming topics to be able to submit a form with a captcha. What if you didn't need to do it at all, and have a solution which adapts to the task and does everything you need, without going deep to the source code of the target website? Introducing Antigate Templates. With our service, you can delegate any browser task to our human workforce by providing exact steps of what our workers need to do. They can navigate to pages, fill forms with data you provide with our API, solve complex captchas, and more. All actions are controlled by a special browser extension installed in our worker's Chrome browser. At the end of the task, we take a snapshot of the worker's session and transfer it to your application. It may include cookies, local storage, screenshots, HTML content, and even HTTP headers. Let's make an example template together and see how exactly it works. This page emulates popular social network registration page, where you need to fill your details, solve a captcha, and enter a code sent to you by email. We will automate all these steps with Antigate Template and then test it with real workers via API. I will also show you how to fetch email confirmation code from mail server and push it to a worker's task session. Finally, there will be a demonstration of how it is working on the worker side and that a worker only needs to solve a captcha. Everything else will be automated. Due to legal risks, we are not able to record this tutorial on a real social network page, but everything I'll show you applied to any website out there. We start by creating a new template. Go to the Clients area, and in the menu select Developer Center. Click Add Template. Fill a name, briefly describe the task, and fill other fields. In the section below there are worker steps. This is what we will use to automate our task, so the worker's job will be only to solve a captcha. All other steps will be performed by this wide variety of available automation actions. Navigate to Registration page. Open Developers Console and switch to Elements tab. We will program our template to fill these fields automatically without worker interaction. Let's begin with email text input. Move your mouse over it, right-click, select Inspect option. Notice that corresponding HTML tag was highlighted in the Developers Console. Move your mouse over it, right-click, select Copy, select Copy Selector. What you are copying is the cascading style sheet or CSS selector of this page element. It is a text representation of a path of an element from the root of a document. Now, switch to the template constructor. For our email field, we need the Fill Input Auto step. Click Add Step. In the new row, we see two settings, CSS Selector and Text Value. Paste CSS Selector in the text input. For the text value of this email input, we will need a variable, so in the future our template will use different email every time we run it. Scroll up and add email variable. You can choose any variable name. I'll input email var. Then scroll back and select variable for the text value. Email_var is already in the list and selected by default, as there are no more variables yet. Switch back to our registration page and repeat same steps for the password field. The password input field CSS selector is not as short comparing to the email field. In the real-world implementation, CSS selectors may change when a new version of the website is released, so let's try a different approach. Instead of copying the CSS selector, we will copy its XPath. In the template constructor, change CSS selector to XPath and paste the new value. Then, add another variable and set it to the text value property. For the drop-down list, it's a bit different approach. You need to see what exact values each option has, and make sure to set this exact value and not the option caption. For example, for this month's list, you need to provide values like 01, 02, 03, and so on, instead of January, February, or March. For the year, list option values are equal to captions. I will use CSS selectors for these lists, but you may use XPath as well. For the dates, I won't use any variables and just set the date to always be 1st of May 1990. To check the checkbox automatically, we need another action. I'm copying its XPath, and from Steps menu, I'm choosing Click on Selector Step. Switch to Correct option and paste XPath of the checkbox. Next automation step is to click on Continue button. Same thing as with the checkbox. Copy its XPath, select Click on Selector Step, and paste the path. So far we have automated the first page. Let's proceed to the CAPTCHA page. Up to this point, a potential anti-CAPTCHA worker would not have to do absolutely anything. All fields are filled automatically and required elements are clicked. At this second page, our template will stop and will wait for workers' action. All they left to do is to solve this CAPTCHA. So let's do that too and continue. Our next automation step is entering a confirmation code from email. This is how this email looks like. Switch to the constructor and add a new variable confirmation code. In the Steps menu, select Wait for Variable Value option. In the production environment, values of these variables can be updated via an API method at any time after task creation. After the template receives the variable value, we need to input it in the code field. So just copy its XPath and select Fill Input Auto, which you are already familiar with. Use the confirmation code variable as its value. We've almost done with the template. After inputting the confirmation code, we need to click Register button. Repeat same steps as with previous button. We now proceed to the last automation step. Copy-paste the confirmation code, click Register, and we're now on the final page. We know that template is run successfully when there's this registration complete message. In real-world websites, the success page may look different. You may be redirected to a member page or see a different message. For our demonstration purpose, we will use this message as an indicator of task completion and a last step in our template. If our last step would be only clicking on Register button, then we would never know that registration really went through. Let's use Wait Control Text Present Step and set its permanent text value to registration complete. Another question is, how do we know when the template failed to finish? For this purpose, we have task cancellation conditions, which will stop the task when a program condition is met. For example, let's go back at registration page and enter a random confirmation number. When we attempt to enter the code, this error message will appear. Let's copy it and use it as cancellation condition. When the template detects this text, the task will cancel automatically and save us some money. All right, it's time to save the template and do some testing. Click on Test button. First, we need to install a browser extension. You may want to use a separate Chrome profile for that, as the plugin clears cookies after each task. Download zip file with the extension. Open Extensions page. Enable Developer Mode. Drag and drop the extension file to the page. Switch back to anti-captcha and reload the page to start the extension. Click on Test button again. Copy the registration page address and set it as a starting point. Then, fill the variables the template will use for registration. As we don't know the confirmation code yet, click on Push this value later box. Enter a password and an email address you have access to. You may use +sign with some random text to acquire a new alias for your email address. We won't use proxies for this time, so skip this section. Click the Launch Test button. A new tab has opened and the extension started filling the form automatically. When it fills a form field, the extension hides it, so workers won't see your data. Note that the extension executed first 7 steps, and now waiting for the confirmation code update. But first, a worker needs to solve this captcha. Now when captcha is solved, a confirmation code is sent to our email. Let's copy it and go to Developer Center to update the variable value in the extension. Do not enter the code on the registration page itself. When I click this button, a special message is sent to extension telling it to set the variable value. Quickly switch to registration page and notice that confirmation input is already hidden, which means it is filled already. The task is completed. Notice that all the steps are finished. If you scroll down, you'll see all the session data grabbed from the registration page, including cookies, local storage values, and browser fingerprint information. Now it is time to test our template in a production mode with real workers. Click on Switch to Production button. Choose the visibility mode of your template. As we review all templates manually, we charge $1 for that. Copy-paste the address of the page where the template is going to be used and provide example variable values. Our moderator will review your template within 24 hours. If you've filled the proper description of your template, it works without issues, and doesn't do anything illegal, then most likely it will be approved. You may edit your template anytime after submission. Editing won't affect template's approval status. For this tutorial, I'm going to use IMAP server of my Gmail box, but you can use your own mail settings. In order to enable IMAP capabilities, we need to go to Settings and enable IMAP access. That's not all. We need to generate a different password for our future application to access Google's IMAP server. Open the settings again and find a link to your Google account settings. From there, set up two-step verification. After you've done with this step, click two-step verification again and scroll to the bottom. There you'll find App Passwords link. Open it and generate a new password. Copy this password and open your favorite code editor. Create a new file and save it for future usage. I'm going to write my code in JavaScript for Node.js environment. I'll use ready-to-use official anti-captcha NPM library. Go to anticaptcha.com/apitic, scroll down to GitHub menu and click on Node.js link. Find an example for Antigate tasks. We need an example where task is created and then a variable value is pushed into a PI. Here it is. Copy package installation command and run it in the terminal in the project directory. Go back to GitHub page and copy the example code. We also need to import the package. Set the API key and confirm that the balance is positive. Scroll up and find the required sample. Our app will run in synchronous function, so let's adapt this piece for that purpose. In case of negative balance, the app will stop. Let's find our API key and set it up. Time to edit the send Antigate task function parameters. The first property is the page address, second is the name of the template, and third are the variables values. Let's replace these with our own. For the page address, I'm using the registration page of our social network. For the template name, I'm just copying the name of our template. I'm leaving a place for 3 variables: email, password, and confirmation code. For a password, I'm using a simple string with minimum 8 characters. For the confirmation code, I'm using wait for it keyword, surrounded by underline character. This will tell anti-captcha components that the value of this variable will be provided later, when we receive it from mail server. For email property, I'm using my anticaptcha69@mail.com email with a random alias. This piece will generate a number from 0 to 10 million. Now, we need to find a way to interact with IMAP server. I'm using npmjs.com to find a possible library which would help me in this task. I'll use this IMAP simple package for this tutorial, but I'm not going to code it from scratch to save us time. Instead, I'll copy-paste my pre-written code and explain how it works. And here it is. I'm moving this checkmail function below main 1. This is the IMAP server configuration object. I'm using my email as username, and for the password, I'm copying the application password I generated previously. Leave the server host name and port the same if you're using a Gmail account. So, here's the checkmail function. It is synchronous, and all steps are executed one by one. First, we import the library and opening a connection with the config object we had specified above. Then the connection opens the inbox mail folder and downloads all headers and bodies of messages. Note that different mail servers might output different item structure, so if you're using another mail server, this part may need to be adapted. Next, we search for a message with a specific subject, confirmation code. The body is encoded in base 64, so we decode it. We extract the code from the message with a regex mask. The code is between this string and a new line character. Then we remove the message, so if we run the script again, we won't have an old confirmation code. Finally, we close the connection to the server and return the confirmation code. If we didn't find any matching message, then this function will return null value. We will begin querying mail server with some delay after creating a task, so a worker could have time to navigate to the page and solve a captcha. When we got the code, it will push it to worker session via anti-captcha API method. After pushing the confirmation code, we will just wait for the solution result from API. Let's add some more console output and check if we have any errors. Let's add a pause between mail checks, otherwise Google will block us. And of course, we need to exit the loop if we got the confirmation code. We also need to wait for result of the get balance promise. For email variable value, we'll use a constant and output it in the console, so we could test the credentials later. That's it. Fingers crossed. Let's run it. The balance is positive, task is created, and now the script is waiting a few seconds before starting to pull the mail server. You can see that it downloads messages from the inbox, but none of them is of our interest. Right at this moment, an anti-captcha worker somewhere in Venezuela is solving our captcha. Let's give them some more time. We got the mail and extracted the confirmation code. It has been pushed to workers' session, and the task should finish soon. Yeah, it's successfully finished. As you see, anti-captcha returns lots of session data, including cookie objects, browser fingerprint, and even local storage value, which reCAPTCHA had saved it in the worker's browser. Our extension has already cleared it from worker's browser and transmitted to us. Let's test the credentials at our social network website. We are using this email from the console output and the hard-coded password from our code. And it works. Now, I'm going to show you how it looks on a worker's side. I'm going to use a separate Chrome profile and adjust the code to send tasks to my worker account. So, on the left, we have our code, and on the right is the website for our workers. They are using it for executing their assignments, viewing stats, and withdrawing earned funds. I'm clicking on the Start button, and the interface switches to work mode. In the terminal, I'm starting our app. A new tab opens automatically in worker's browser. All fields are filled automatically too, and now worker is only required to solve a captcha. I do that and click the Continue button. That's all I'll do for this task. In the terminal, the app has retrieved the confirmation code and pushed it into the worker session. This happened real quick. The registration is complete and the tab is closed. And our app receives the collected session data. And this is it. As you just saw, the registration process is quite complex, but with Antigate Templates automation capabilities, it is narrowed down just to solving a captcha, the only thing that bots can't do. I hope you liked our video. Please give it a like if you did. Good luck with your automations and have a great day.